Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're just waiting for Mufti Amir Sahib to arrive. I think he may have got stuck not knowing that Ribbleton Lane is blocked off, especially with Morana being out of town. Khair, today is a very blessed day. The best thing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that the best thing a person can do on the day of Eid is ihraqud dam. It's ihraqud dam, the flowing of blood. The flowing of blood is a day in which many of us, alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, we've sent our qurbani across the globe. Many of us, inshallah, will be doing it here in the UK as well. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he makes mention of the qurbani. He says, al-adahi yawman ba'da Eid al-Adha, meaning qurbani, to do qurbani is 3 days. Yeah, getting Eid or Wasi Eid, pachi Tarwasi. Yeah, so you have 3 days of Eid. Why? Because these days are those days in which the Hajjaj, today is Yawmun Nahr, is known as Yawmun Nahr. Today, the most busiest day for a Haji is today. They have spent their day yesterday in Arafah. If they didn't go to Arafah, their Hajj isn't completed. Then at the time of sunset, okay, they left for the plain of Muzdalifah. In the open plain, they will be sleeping in the open ground. No tents, nothing. The sky is their covering and the earth is their bed. Simple. Okay? They will spend their day in Muzdalifah. They will spend their day in Muzdalifah, and then after that they will have come this morning after Fajr, okay, to Mina, and after that they will have gone for the Jamarat, okay, the pelting of the shaitan, okay, because there's a big connection. There's a long story about, and we read it in Fadail Amal yesterday as well, कि शैतान वो हर अमल में रुकावट बनता है. For every amal, shaitan, he tries to be an obstacle, and more so for Hajj. When a person is planning to go for Hajj, okay, the shaitan will say, नहीं भाई तुझे तो ये बच्ची की शादी भी करानी है और अभी तो पे राइज भी नहीं मिला है, आएंगे तो गरीब हो जाओगे, और अभी तो कुछ सेविंग नहीं है, इतना कर्जा है. ये all these different things, shaitan puts doubts in your mind कि I don't know if I can go or not, I can't go or not. फिर वक्त आ जाता है, फिर शैतान he lets you go, फिर अफसोस होता है. At that point then you feel, oh Allah, if only I had gone for Hajj. And you see all the Hujjaj that are on the live stream from Makkah Mukarramah and from the plain of Arafah and from Mina, and they're engrossed in their ibadah. Khair, the Hujjaj will then leave and they will go to Jamarat. After that, they will go and do their Qurbani, okay, their Eid Qurbani. Or you could say the Hajj Qurbani. There's a Hadi to give for Hajj. And then you have the Eid Qurbani as well, okay, your normal Qurbani. So a person who goes for Hajj, generally, he has to do 2 Qurbanis. One is for Hajj and one is the normal one he does as long as he's not a traveler, okay. And then they will they'll cut their hair, right, and then also on this day do tawaf ziyarat. Okay, a person who doesn't do tawaf ziyarat, his hajj, he needs to go back and do hajj, the tawaf ziyarat again. Is one of the big issues, especially with women, okay, when they come onto their cycles. Khair. So al-adahi yawman ba'da Eid al-Adha. So these days are for qurbani, and if you struggle to place your qurbani, there's still time now. There are many organizations just like UWT that are still taking orders on for qurbani. If you haven't given your qurbani and is wajib upon you, then you should take out your qurbani. I'll stop here, inshallah. It's fine. So you get stuck in traffic.
Yeah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. First of all, I'm extremely sorry. I was not supposed to be late, and it's not a reflection on you guys. The topic that I do want to speak about, I returned from London yesterday, and as I was returning, the journey I was thinking about what to speak about. And then after Fajr today, I started putting some of the ideas together, and literally I finished like minutes ago. So I have about 25 minutes. I did have 25 minutes. I now have less than that to speak to you about some very, very important ideas. I think one of the fundamental things that I want to speak about, and as I was putting this together, my thought process really was, there are two celebrations currently taking place across the kind of globe right now. One is this celebration of Eid that we are going through right now, and one is the celebration of Pride that's taking place regarding the LGBTQ agenda. And I thought to myself, how can I combine both of these celebrations? One is a celebration for us, one isn't. I thought, how can I combine these two celebrations and discuss something which is relevant to me and you today? And I thought the fundamental individual who puts all of these ideas together for us is Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. And so I thought, let us go through the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam and see how we can understand our response and how we approach some of these things. And this is more a broad lesson on how we tackle fitan and challenges that our communities face. And I cannot stress this enough, and I will keep saying this, and you will keep hearing this from the scholars, from the students, from every individual. You will keep hearing the stories of the prophets or where we turn to when we need guidance. The stories of the prophets are the most fundamental social commentary that we will find anywhere in the history of humanity, because Allah provides them very specifically with purpose. Now, I had a bit of an introduction. I don't want to spend too much time on the introduction. I think you've got an idea of what I want to talk about. In the next 20 minutes, what I want to do is extremely ambitious. And so Ibrahim alayhi salam was born in a community that worshipped idols. We know this. Every child knows this. A child can tell you this. To oppose those idols was unacceptable. And the crime was punishable by instant cancellation. Think about that. If you spoke against these idols, instant cancellation. You're cancelled. You're kicked out of the community. You're threatened with your life. And we talk of cancel culture today. To oppose the idols of his community would lead to cancellation. But why was that the case? The highest authority in the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam were those idols. When me and you look at the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam, we're like, well, there's no idols here today. In my house, there's no idols. I'm not worshipping idols. For me, it's absurd to even think about worshipping idols. But by the end of this talk, we'll realize we're worshipping a number of idols. And this is the reality. So how is this story of Ibrahim alayhi salam relevant to me and you? Well, I'll agree with you. There are no wooden idols anymore in our homes. There are no stone idols anymore in our homes. But there are ideas and beliefs that exist within our communities and our societies that if I was to oppose them, I would be instantly cancelled. And that's the cancellation of Ibrahim alayhi salam. That these ideas and these motivations are similar to idols. To speak against them and to make a comment against them is akin to blasphemy. And I said to you at the start that I'm going to attempt to extrapolate some complex ideas, and so I need you to follow with me as I'm going through this. But these are conceptual idols for which people are willing to give their lives and to fight for. We have to ask ourselves, what are the idols and beliefs that I'm not even allowed to question in society today? I'm not even attempt to understand what the position of the Muslim should be in this regard. Because that's what Ibrahim alayhi salam did. He questioned the absolute authority and culture of his time. You worship idols? He asked them, you worship idols? The first question I have to ask to me and you is not an easy one. But Ibrahim alayhi salam's legacy begins with questioning the status quo, questioning the community around him, questioning the society that is, pushing an agenda, pushing a position, pushing something which he disagrees with, and he sees through the facade, and he says, I don't think this makes sense. Talk about ruffling feathers. Your own father is the one who's making idols. Ibrahim alayhi salam's own father is the one who's constructing and carving these idols. He's raised around idols as a child, and that is the most normal thing to him. Despite that, he questions everything around him. His father's profession, his full-time job was to carve idols. And Allah shows us that you want to understand why me and you are speaking of Ibrahim alayhi salam today in the 21st century. You want to understand why his legacy remains so powerful and so strong. You want to understand why out of all the prophets, his legacy was eternalized in such a way in the Quran that Allah says, Millata abikum Ibrahim, the trajectory of your father Ibrahim alayhi salam. Our religion is modeled on the religion and the trajectory and the thought processes of Ibrahim alayhi salam. You want to understand why that's the case today? Because he didn't care about being cancelled by his community. He didn't care about being cancelled by his people. He cared about not being cancelled by Allah. He cared about his children not being cancelled by Allah. And when this becomes your mindset, and Allah teaches us this principle, let the world cancel you, let everybody throw you into the fire of cancellation. But if you remain firm and you remain with Allah, ask Ibrahim alayhi salam and the youngsters and his friends who were with him living in the land of Babylon, etc. Ask them, when Ibrahim alayhi salam said this and he was thrown out, they would have said, he was such a good guy, man. He had such a good future. He was from a good home and he's been kicked out. He's been dishonored. Ajib, man. He should have just kept quiet and he would have had this and that. Cancelled. The parents would have been saying, don't do what Ibrahim did. He's messed up. Make sure you don't do that. Make sure you don't go off track like him. Don't do what he did. And yet what does Allah teach us? Allah teaches us that Allah promises that let everybody say what they want. I'll keep your legacy alive to such an extent that people will speak about you thousands and thousands of years afterwards. My final prophet will come through your children. This is the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And so this is what I want to do. Take some of these lessons through this. So first and foremost, he didn't take what the people around him said for granted. He didn't believe because the people around him believed. And I'm saying this a little fast, and I hope it's you guys forgive me, because I know that it takes time to process some of these ideas as well. It's taken me a couple of weeks to put some of these ideas together and really make them coherent, and then just to throw them at you So do forgive me, but what I would suggest is think about the notes that you could be taking with this, and think about it afterwards, and think about what you can extrapolate from these ideas as well. But I just want to make sure I don't do injustice to the content as well. So the number one thing is he didn't believe because the people around him believed. He wasn't willing to believe on the authority of the people around him. I say this because I touched on this in Ramadan when I came, and I said talk about identity. Ibrahim alayhi salam speaks constantly about identity, and through him Allah shows us Islamic identity. But I have to ask myself and yourself, do I believe because my parents are Muslim? Or do I believe because I have my own reason? And you might be 60, 70, 80 and you might be asking this question for the first time. Or you might be 6, 7, 8 and asking this question for the first time. And this is where, as parents, we cannot just drag the children to faith. We have to show them and guide them to faith. This is the prophetic approach, that you encourage and nurture these children, let them reach the conclusions. And I will never say, let the child choose what he wants. No. Just as when it comes to healthy eating, you'll teach your child what foods to eat, what not to eat, and then you'll guide them towards and say, what decision would you like to make here? Similarly, you guide your children and say, this is what's good for you. This is what you need. This is what you need. What would you like to do? And let the child make their informed decisions. Let them come to faith and let them appreciate what faith is. Let them engage with the Quran. Let them engage with the scholars and the books and all of these different things. Let them spend time in the company of the righteous, and teach them the akhlaq and the adab of spending time in the company of the righteous. You have to, and this is the most important thing for parents, give your children their own Muslim identity, not your Muslim identity. And that's very important. Let them develop their Muslim identity, but I don't just mean let them make their identity in line with the Sharia, in company of the righteous, in accordance with the lives of the prophets. That's fundamental, and that's something that we leave out. Yeah, he's a Muslim, he prays a few salahs and he dresses like this. That's not good enough for me and you. We want our children to be at the epitome of faith. And we always say that we want the best of this world and the best of the next life. Let's be realistic. I am willing to lose the best of this world at the expense of giving my child the best of the next life. Because that's the priority. That's the fundamental priority. And so khair. So engaging with the Quran will help this. Khair. Second point. If we have a reason to believe, and I've talked to you previously that the Quran is my personal reason to believe, and I genuinely believe that should be everybody's reason to believe, either the Quran or the people of the Quran. Either one of those you need to start with. once you've accepted that, number two, and of course the life of the Prophet ﷺ, etc., which is the Ahlul Quran, once you have that grounding, you will be able to be a believer wherever you are. Listen to this very, very carefully. Some people are currently having conversations, well, I think we need to move to a Muslim majority country. I think we need to move to Turkey. I think we need to move here. It's so difficult to keep my faith, especially with the LGBTQ agenda, especially with modernity, especially with feminism, especially with all these isms and ideologies. I need to move to another country. This is a country of disbelief. Now, although there may be some truth for some people in this, however, you can move to a Muslim majority country and you may not only just become distant to your faith, you may even lose your faith. There's no guarantee moving to an Islamic country or Islamic Muslim majority will change that. And I will evidence this from the Quran in a second. That we need to understand this. That take the lives of the greatest prophets, and I've touched on this before as well. Within their own homes, the likes of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. Absolutely flawless, absolutely, when it comes to prophetic upbringing, absolutely perfect. But Allah teaches us you can get everything right, but within your home, if I want, I will create a disbeliever. Why? I'll listen to this and understand why. Allah's not playing a game that He does this because He feels like it. It's a very simple principle Allah talks about in the Quran. Man ihtada innama yahtadi li nafsih. Ihtada is different to the normal word that you use for hidayah, which is hada, which is guidance. Ihtada is on a very specific family of iqtaraba, which means to commit to guidance. Man ihtada, whoever commits to guidance, whoever makes an effort to guidance, that person is guided. I am saying this to myself, and you don't just hear it from me. Walk out of here and say this to yourself, that if I do not commit to guidance, Allah will not give me guidance. The children of Yaqub alayhi salam, same thing. One is, they're throwing their brother into the well. They're saying, uqtuluhu, kill him. Adam alayhi salam, one of his sons kills the other. Where you are placed will not change anything, necessarily speaking, to the extent that you can be in the company of the Prophet ﷺ, from the family of the Prophet ﷺ, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ in your final moment says to you, accept Islam, just say the kalima, I'll do the rest, say the kalima. And he doesn't accept Islam, and then Allah reveals the verses after this incident. Allah reveals the verses, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You, O Muhammad, as much as it pains you, as much as you are the most beloved person to me, you do not guide who you want. It's me who guides, it's Allah who guides. And Allah doesn't guide on the basis of he's from this family, he's like this, he's like that, he dresses like... No, Allah guides on the basis of man ihtada, somebody who commits to guidance, they get guidance. To the extent that there's a hadith of Muslim where Aisha radiallahu anha narrates, لما نزلت وأنذر عشيرتك الأقربين. When the verses were revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, what were the verses? أنذر عشيرتك الأقربين وأنذر عشيرتك الأقربين. And Muhammad, now go and warn your close family members. Start with your family members. قام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم stood على الصفا, on the mountain of Safa, mountain of Safa and Marwa. He went to Safa and he stood. فقال, and he said, يا فاطمة بنت محمد, يا صفية بنت عبد المطلب, يا بني عبد المطلب. Oh my own daughter, Fatima. Oh my family members, Safiya bint عبد المطلب, يا بني عبد المطلب, my family members. لا أملك لكم من الله شيئا. I cannot protect you from Allah in any way, shape or form. سلوني من مالي ما شئتم. Ask from my wealth and my property what you want. Take what you want from my property, but when it comes to Allah, you have to do your bit. Imagine as a prophet, you're saying to your own children, I can't help you unless you help yourselves. As somebody sitting here, I say to you and I say to my nafs, I can't help you. My words can't help you. Nothing can help you except if you decide to commit to guidance, you decide to take those steps. And now those hadith make sense when the Prophet ﷺ mentions that Allah Himself says, whoever extends a hand to me, I'll extend an arm. What's Allah teaching us in this hadith? You have to do that first bit. Ihtada, commit to guidance. When you do that, everything will come. You come walking, I'll come running. These ahadith exist to show you this principle that you have to do the first bit. Guidance is not given like I go to sleep at night and say, tomorrow I'm going to change, I'm going to do my fajr, I'm going to do everything. The next morning I don't make an effort, I don't set an alarm, I'm not regretful, I don't give myself consequences. Whereas ask yourself, if you had children, your children look out of salah, just glance up and you're like, what are you doing? What are you looking out of namaz for? They fidget a little. What are you doing? Why are you fidgeting in salah for? And me and you, we disobey Allah. And I'm saying, be harsh on yourself. Be harsh on yourself. Look, I will never tell you to be harsh on somebody else, but I will tell you because our nafs needs to hear this. We've had enough people telling us, be nice to yourself, Allah is this, Allah is all of those things, and Allah is the kindest and the most compassionate. But don't take advantage of that, because if your own child was to take advantage of your kindness, look, I gave you one chance and now you're still doing this. You don't accept it from your children. Why do you accept it from yourself? Your nafs is your child. Rear this child. Make tarbiyah of this child. And so on the other hand, you can be born in a home of polytheists. You can be born in a community of idolaters, just as Ibrahim alayhi salam was. Every ideology was contradictory to his faith. Every turn is a test for you and your children in the West that we live in today. But if you develop their faith and you develop a depth and conviction in their faith, you will be able to engage with the divine miracle, the book of Allah. Then you will thrive and succeed in this world and the next. It's not the location. How many scholars do you need to tell you that there are people who go in front of the Kaaba and they will steal? How many people do you need to tell you that they will be in front of the Kaaba and they will sin? How many people do you need? The place doesn't matter, the time doesn't matter. In the month of Ramadan, there will be individuals on the nights of power, they will be involved in the worst of sins. But it doesn't come down to time and places. They don't change people. It's me and you who have to change. It's me and you who have to change. Man ihtada innama yahtadi li nafsih. Third point, okay, fine. Show from me, from the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, how he did this. This third point, I'm going to skip past a little bit, but it comes down to developing certitude in faith. If you want to understand this a little more, check the tafsir. I'll share some tafsir notes with Shaykh Hafiullah, and he can share it with yourselves, inshallah, or if he wishes. وَلِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ. It will develop certitude. It's that specific verse. Check the tafsir, Ma'arif al-Quran, Mufti Shafi and other places, etc. You'll find beneficial stuff there. It's in English. Khair. I want to continue and analyze the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam in the next 3 minutes that I have. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he also experienced a rational and a philosophical argument for Allah. And Allah presents this in the Quran. فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ رَأَى كَوْكَبًا. He's looking at the sky and he sees the stars in the night. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. This is my Lord. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ. When the star disappears, قَالَ لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. I'm not a fan of those things that disappear. My God can't disappear. So that can't be my God. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْقَمَرَ بَازِغًا. When he saw the moon bright and clear, قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. This is my Lord. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَإِن لَمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الضَّالِّينَ. There's a lot of tafsir in this, but I just want to mention very quickly the point that I want to mention. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ. When the moon disappeared, he says, لَإِن لَمْ يَهْدِنِي. If Allah does not guide me, لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الضَّالِّينَ. I'll be misguided. Allah, I need guidance. It's not even in the moon. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الشَّمْسَ بَازِغًا. He sees the sun. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي هَذَا أَكْبَرُ. This is my Lord. This is the big one. This is the biggest one. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَتْ قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ. When that sun disappears, he says, Allah, I can't carry on like this. إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ. What these individuals ascribe partners with you, I can't do that. I can't do this, Allah. I can't do this what they're doing. It's you that I'm looking for. It's not these things that I'm looking for. He did have an intellectual argument. But I want you to appreciate the intellectual argument was not the basis of his faith. Listen carefully to this. The science that you come across within the Quran, the intellectual arguments that you might come across, somebody will say, this is the teleological argument, this is the cosmological argument, this is this argument, this is the argument from Kalam, cosmological, this is, all these different arguments. Your basis of faith is not on these arguments. These are something bonus, these are something additional. The science isn't the foundation of my faith. The foundation and the basis of my faith is what Ibrahim alayhi salam says. When they come to argue with him, he doesn't start debating with them saying, well, this is the argument of the moon, the sun. He says, وَحَاجَّهُ قَوْمُهُ. When his people started arguing and debating, قَالَ أَتُحَاجُّونِّي فِي اللَّهِ وَقَدْ هَدَانِي. You're going to argue with me regarding Allah when He is the one who guided me? That conviction of faith, that, what are you talking about? You think you're going to convince me? You think you can present any argument that's going to convince me of a faith besides my faith? Because he had conviction. I keep trying to emphasize this in the few minutes that I have. Conviction in faith. Develop that. Any argument can come your way. It will not sway you because your evidence is strong. The Quran is the strongest of evidences to the extent Allah puts a challenge. Bring something like it. Produce something similar to it. وَلَا أَخَافُ مَا تُشْرِكُونَ بِهِ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ رَبِّي شَيْئًا. You think I'm scared of what you guys are going to do? You think I'm scared of what your gods can do? You think I'm scared of what your ideologies can do? You're going to cancel me? I'm going to lose my job? What, you think I'm worried about these things? And I'm going to what? I'm going to pander to you at the expense of my faith? لا أخاف ما تشركون به. I'm not scared of these things. إلا أن يشاء ربي شيئا. Whatever Allah wants will happen. وَسِعَ رَبِّي كُلَّ شَيْءٍ عِلْمًا. Allah has all-encompassing knowledge. أَفَلَا تَتَذَكَّرُونَ. Do you not think? And so this was the foundation of his faith. And he then continues, and I'll conclude on this, inshallah. Give me 2 minutes. The verse that I want to touch on before I conclude, فَأَيُّ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ أَحَقُّ بِالْأَمْنِ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. This is very deep. It gives you an appreciation of what your faith can do for you. Whilst he's arguing with them, he concludes and he says, أَيُّ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ أَحَقُّ بِالْأَمْنِ. Which of the two groups are more deserving of peace? Which makes you now question, how does faith give me peace? What does Islam and religion and faith have to give me? Hadith of Muslim, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلَّهُ خَيْرٌ. How amazing is the life of the believer, the situation of the believer. Every single thing for him is good. ذَاكَ لِأَحَدٍ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ. This is not for anybody except the believer. Why? إِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ سَرَّاء شَكَرَ. When something good happens, you're grateful. Allah, I'm grateful too. فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. That's good for you. When أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاء. When something bad happens to you, صَبَرَ. I'm patient. فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. That's better. Allah will give me something. You're never alone, you're never ignored, you're never irrelevant. In a time where everybody wants friends and followers and all of these things and likes and acknowledgement, you know that if Allah validates my existence, I don't need anybody else to validate me. Ibrahim alayhi salam was the loneliest person in his community, exiled, thrown out. He was never truly alone. Yusuf alayhi salam at the pits within a well, in prison, in all of these, he was never alone. When we teach our children this, they don't need to follow the trends. This brings peace, true peace. A second benefit of faith is you acknowledge your dependence and neediness before Allah. How is this a benefit? Well, none of us are independent. I need everybody. So as a masjid, we need certain individuals to help clean the masjid, to lead the congregation. We need individuals to teach the children. As a community, I need somebody to produce the food, the export, the import, all of these things that I need. I need somebody to empty the trash and the bins out. I need somebody to do all of these things. We're not independent beings. That's a sign that I need to finish. No matter how much money I have, I'm never independent. Concluding, inshallah. And so you realize that actually people will make mistakes. The only person I can truly depend on is Allah. It gives you this conviction. Allah is the only one I can depend on. Allah will give me in this world, and if not in this world, He guarantees to give me in the next life. There is nobody who can guarantee giving me something, not even the bank. How many times have we read in the news, etc., where some sort of a coup takes place in a country, or some sort of a bank goes bankrupt, ironically, and then everyone's lining up to get their money. Northern Rock, I think it happened like in 2010 or something like that. Khair. And the third benefit of faith, which I'll conclude on, is we leave everything to Allah. You can have your plans, you can make your plans, but you submit everything to Allah. You don't have to worry about these things. That whatever happens, I'm at peace with the decision of Allah. Sometimes I put hours of work into something, but the results aren't there, but I'll get the reward with Allah. And sometimes I'll put minimal effort and it will work through, and it'll come through and work. That's from the grace of Allah. And so this is what Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying. Faith brings you inner peace. When you have true faith, it brings you peace. فَأَيُّ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ أَحَقُّ بِالْأَمْنِ. Which of the two groups is most deserving of peace? I just want to bring it and contextualize it to our time in 1 minute, and then I'll conclude on this. That the believer who submits to Allah, or is it the believer who submits to the ideologies? The ideologies where people are worshipping themselves, they're worshipping their lusts, their greed. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. Do you not see those individuals out there who have made their gods and their entities of worship, the ideologies that they worship, they've made them their gods. They've made themselves their gods. فَأَيُّ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ أَحَقُّ. There's ideologies out there, and I conclude on this, that beckon to us. The idols of today that have absolute authority. The many isms of feminism and modernity and all of the different isms that exist, and the perverted worldviews that are trying to kind of get at our children and get at our faith, they will not bring contentment. They will raise more questions, more confusion, more sadness. You will drown yourself in greater confusion in an attempt to even make sense of your own identity. You will lose your own identity. Forget what you exist for Who am I and what am I will be the questions. Ibrahim alayhi salam says, فَأَيُّ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ أَحَقُّ بِالْأَمْنِ. Which of the two groups, which of these two ideologies? Is it Islam that's going to give you peace and contentment? Or is it the ideologies that exist out there? Where is the peace and the clarity and the sense of calm going to come from? It's going to come from those who submit. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam continues, where I'll stop here inshallah. But not only that, he then puts some conditions. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. They don't corrupt their faith, they don't pollute their faith with some of this ideology and some of this ideology. I'll take a bit of this and a bit of this because that makes sense to me. Logic, oh, that makes sense. Well, you know, that makes sense. But I'll mix it with my faith. I'll mix it with my faith. The second I need to turn to a second or third ideology, that means my Islam isn't enough for me. That means Islam isn't complete. The second I need feminism, the second I need modernity, the second I need these ideas. And by the way, I'll switch it off. I'm concluding now. But when I say modernity, I don't mean being modern. That's not what modernity means. Study what modernity is. It's something more than that. There's nothing wrong with dressing well. There's nothing wrong with these things. That's not what the issue is. It's the mindset. It's the mindset. It's this idea of, a bit of this and a bit of that. Taking some of these ideas and understand that Islam is perfect and pristine. And hopefully my objective really, and I'm taking the mic off now as well, my objective really was one thing in this discussion. It was to maybe touch on some of the ideas that we don't maybe get to engage with so much. But more importantly, it wasn't that. More importantly, it was to mention to you, look at what the stories of the prophets have within them. The story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, we've been reading our entire life. Look at the perspective Allah is showing us through the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Every story of the Prophet, make it your mission, re-study them, re-engage with them, and you will find that the story is at base level. Idols doesn't make sense to me, but the story will make sense to you in the context of today. There are idols within our communities, within our hearts, within our lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding and the ability to practice on what has been said. I do apologize profusely for coming late and then delaying on top of that. May Allah reward you all immensely. Assalamu alaikum.
Can we please stand together, fill in the sufuf, squeeze in as best as possible. We only got 2 rak'ahs to read. As close as possible, please. Whilst we wait for the sufuf to be made, just the method of Eid Salah. You will make intention that you're reading 2 rak'ats Eid Salah with 6 extra takbeers. The Imam will say Allahu Akbar. You will raise your hands. You'll say Allahu Akbar. You'll fold them. You'll say Thana. After that, there will be 3 extra takbeers. Allahu Akbar, you raise your hands, let them go. Allahu Akbar, raise your hands, let them go. Allahu Akbar, raise your hands and then fold them. There will be qira'ah. After that, you will go into ruku, sajda, complete the salah, the rak'ah, and then come back up. Again, first you'll have the qira'at first in the second rak'ah, and then before going into ruku, you will have 3 extra takbeers. Allahu Akbar, you raise your hands, let them go. Allahu Akbar, raise your hands, let them go. Allahu Akbar, raise your hands, let them go. And then in the fourth takbir, you will then go into ruku. After ruku, we will complete our salah, inshallah, as per normal. There is takbir after the Eid Salah. Okay, after that we'll have dua. After dua we have khutbah. Please stay for the khutbah and listen to the khutbah attentively as well. If you, as close as possible, squeeze in as best as possible. Hafiz sahab, बच्चों को बिल्कुल साइड पे कर दें जहाँ बड़े हजरात नहीं बैठ सकते, तो ताकि वो छोटे जो है आ जाए. नमाज शुरू हो रही है. अल्लाहु अकबर. अल्लाहु अकबर. अल्लाहु अकबर. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تكونوا كالذين آذوا موسى فبرأه الله مما قالوا وكان عند الله وجيها. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. اللهم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. اللهم ألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم وانصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم واهدهم سبل السلام. اللهم احفظ الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين في كل مكان. اللهم انصرهم نصرا عزيزا وافتح لهم فتحا مبينا. اللهم احفظنا من كل بلاء الدنيا وعذاب القبر وعذاب الآخرة. اللهم إنا نسألك عيشة هنية وميتة سوية ومردا غير مخزن ولا فاضح. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين. اللهم اشف انت الشافي لا شفاء الا شفاءك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. اللهم رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اللهم رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اللهم رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اللهم ربنا لا تدع لنا ذنبا الا غفرته ولا هما الا فرجته ولا دينا الا قضيته ولا مريضا الا شفيته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا هي لك رضا الا قضيتها ويسرتها يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم انا نسألك ايمانا لا يرتد ونعيما لا ينفد ومرافقة نبينا وحبيبنا صلى الله عليه وسلم في أعلى الجنة جنة الخلد يا رب العالمين. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان. اللهم اجعلنا من الراشدين المهديين. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. اللهم اجعلنا من عشاق حبيبك. اللهم اجعلنا من خدام دينك. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه مباركا كما يحب ربنا ويرضى جل جلاله وعم نواله. والصلاة والسلام على سيد الحبيب المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه نجوم الهدى قادة التقى. أما بعد، يا معشر المسلمين، روى الشيخان عن البراء رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: خطبنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم النحر فقال: إن أول ما نبدأ به في يومنا هذا أن نصلي ثم نرجع فننحر، فمن فعل ذلك فقد أصاب سنتنا، ومن ذبح قبل أن نصلي إنما هو شأت لحم عجله لأهله ليس من النسك في شيء. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: ما عمل ابن آدم من عمل يوم النحر أحب إلى الله من إهراق الدم، وإنه ليأتي يوم القيامة بقرونها وأشعارها وأظلافها، وإن الدم ليقع من الله بمكان قبل أن يقع بالأرض فطيبوا بها نفسا. وأيضا عن عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنه الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. ويا أمة المسلمين، أمر الله سبحانه وتعالى عباده بقوله فصل لربك وانحر، يعني الصلاة والتضحية لله فحسب. فهذه الأيام أيام النحر والتضحية، كما قال عمر الخطاب رضي الله تعالى عنه: الأضاحي يومان بعد عيد الأضحى. واعلموا أن في هذه الأضحية كثيرا من الدروس والعبر، أعظمها امتثال الأوامر مخلصا لله الدين، حنيفا لله قانتا لوجهه الكريم، كما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: إن هذه الأضاحي سنة أبيكم إبراهيم عليه الصلاة والسلام. قالوا: فما لنا فيها يا رسول الله؟ قال صلى الله عليه وسلم: بكل شعرة حسنة. قالوا رضي الله تعالى عنهم أجمعين: فالصوف يا رسول الله؟ قال صلى الله عليه وسلم: بكل شعرة من الصوف حسنة. وروى ابن ماجة من حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: من كان له سعة ولم يضحي فلا يقربن مصلانا. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. عباد الله، فاتبعوا سنة أبيكم إبراهيم عليه الصلاة والسلام في ثباته على جميع ما امتحن الله به، ففاز فيه وأفلح حتى أثنى عليه، فناداه جل وعلا: يا إبراهيم قد صدقت الرؤيا، ثم قال: إن كذلك نجزي المحسنين. ومدحه الله سبحانه وتعالى بقوله: إن إبراهيم كان أمة قانتا لله حنيفا ولم يكن من المشركين شاكرا لأنعمه. وقال: إن إبراهيم لأواه حليم إنه كان صديقا نبيا، حتى سلم الله تعالى عليه بقوله: سلام على إبراهيم. وكذا أثنى الله على نبيه إسماعيل عليه الصلاة والسلام عليه الصلاة والتسليم في قوله تبارك وتعالى: إنه كان صادق الوعد وكان رسولا نبيا وكان يأمر أهله بالصلاة والزكاة وكان عند ربه مرضيا. فصلوات الله وسلامه عليهم أجمعين. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. واعلموا أن التقوى من مقاصد هذه الأضاحي، كما أن للصيام والزكاة وحج البيت مقاصدها. قال تبارك وتعالى: لن ينال الله لحومها ولا دماؤها ولكن يناله التقوى منكم. وقال تعالى: إن أكرمكم عند الله يتقاكم. جعلنا الله وإياكم من عباده المتقين. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم، ونفعني وإياكم بالآية والذكر الحكيم. وأقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الله أكبر 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 لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. أما بعد، فيا معشر المسلمين، اعلموا أن يوم النحر يوم أحل الله لكم فيه الطعام وحرم عليكم فيه الصيام، وهذا يوم ضيافة الرب للعباد. قال تبارك وتعالى: فصل لربك وانحر. قال قتادة وعطاء وعكرمة رحمهم الله تعالى: هما صلاة العيد ونحر الأضحية، وذلك كله لله لربك، كما أن الحج لله، ولله على الناس حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا، وأتموا الحج والعمرة لله. وتذكروا خطبة الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم التي ألقاها في ميدان العرفات، حيث قال فيها: إن أباكم واحد وإن إلهكم واحد. وقال فيها: إن دماءكم حرام. وقال: استوصوا بالنساء خيرا. وقال: تركت فيكم شيئين، كتاب الله وسنة سنتي إن تمسكتم بهما لن تضلوا أبدا فاتقوا الله فلا فضل لعربي على عجمي إلا بالتقوى وهي المطلوب من سنة الخليل عليه الصلاة والسلام. قال تبارك وتعالى لن ينال الله لحومها ولا دماؤها ولكن يناله التقوى منكم. وقال تبارك وتعالى إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر وأصدقهم عيان عثمان وقضاهم علي وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة وحمزة أسد الله وأسد رسوله رضوان الله تعالى عليهم أجمعين. اللهم اغفر للعباس وولده مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة لا تغادر ذنبا. الله في أصحابي لا تتخذهم غرضا من بعدي فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم وخير القرون قرني ثم الذين يلونهم. اللهم اعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم احفظ الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم انصرهم نصرا عزيزا وافتح لهم فتحا مبينا. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا معهم. عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. सबको ईद मुबारक तक़ब्बल अल्लाहु मिन्ना व मिनकुम खैर मुबारक गोश्त मुबारक जज़ाकुमुल्लाह।